10/24, November 5th, 2008. Turns out we're in a whole new world. That's what this basically rant's going to be about. I was going to talk to you a little bit about my last day or two. Mainly tonight, what I've been up to, a couple things that I thought about the election and the end result. It's also something of an explanation for my last video. Got a little bit emotional during that. I'm fine right now. I'm actually a bit tipsy. So if you'll excuse my slurring and my continuous uhs, I don't think that disqualifies anyone anymore. I'm going to talk a little bit about how happy I am that Barack Obama won. I'm elated. It's amazing. One of the things that I did after the 2004 election, when I was absolutely devastated, which is to say I feel your pain right now for that 48% of the U.S. that voted for McCain, and I don't know, probably 20 or 30% of Americans that think we just elected a terrorist, and that probably 50% of Texans that think we elected a terrorist. I'll talk about that actually right now. That's the first thing. I live in Uptown in Dallas, and there's a place here called Frankie's. I don't know if you've ever been to Uptown. It's a big sports bar, and there's a guy there who runs it. His name's Bill, and I know Bill. I've lived here for a while, and I like sports, so needless to say, I've spent a day or two there, and we had a nice little discussion tonight. And I did a video a few days ago, kind of doing a parody of Texans a little bit.
Cletus, is that you?
And
Shit.
At the end of it, I made the point that I wasn't really joking. And so Bill is, it's actually Bill the bartender is actually he's kind of a Joe the plumber. He really is. He actually, he's actually employed and actually does own his own business and has done well in the last few years. And we actually had a nice long discussion about this. Actually, he mentioned this, and he said this before, and he talks about where the word pub comes from, right? Because he runs a bar, and we were drinking, of course, at the time. And pub comes from the public house, you know, a place where people would go and talk about politics and things that matter and over drinks. And we actually had a very heated discussion. And I don't know if you're from Dallas or Uptown and have ever been to Frank, you know, Bill's a big guy. I mean, he's about 6'3", 6'4". He spent about 20 years in the military. He's been all over. He's an interesting cat. And, you know, I'm not a small man myself. And this discussion, I mean, it got heated. I mean, we were, you know, yelling back and forth. And then one of the things that came up was, you know, the tax, and it was just, like, you know, the tax thing's a big deal. He is actually a business owner. It's not hypothetical to him. You know, he does have people he pays, and he brought it up, and he was talking about, it's only going to go up for $250,000 or $200,000. And he's like, he's asking me, and he's trying to get me, and he's like, is that gross or net? And I looked at him, and I was like, is that gross or net? And that's when I went off, and I was like, are you fucking kidding me? You're a business, are you going to act that dumb tonight? I mean, because they can do that. He's like, well, you know, some of you, and I was like, you goddamn know how hard it is. And he's like, yeah, and I was like, you know, and I went off, because I knew, you know, I had him on that, and I was like, you know how hard it is as a business to clear, to make and profit, which is to say, the part that gets taxed, to make $250 grand a year. Frankie's, by the way, is not in that category. And this is a successful business, and they do well, and you know, maybe, you know, there's other reasons for whatnot, but when you're talking about a small business, even a successful one, to make $250,000 a year in profit, it's a hard thing to do. And for Exxon, it's not, and that's who's actually going to be paying these taxes. Oh, by the way, just real quick, the last thing on the bill thing, like, this is how far it went. Like, we were going back and forth, and about, like, 2/3 of the way through the discussion, like, half the TVs go off in the place. There's a power outage in the area. And we really are in the middle of the bar, have been yelling at each other for, like, an hour. And we get along fine. We ended up, you know, great. I think it's good to have these kind of discussions. I think this is the point of these public houses. I think you need to talk about and get it out, and you know, it's good for especially someone like that who called Obama a Marxist and a terrorist and whatnot during this discussion with me. Really, he did. He called him these things. And, you know, it was nice for me to be able to actually confront one of those people face to face and say, no, you're freaking insane. Hussein? And I mentioned, the arguments I made in the other video, that I thought it was good, and I think the whole world can actually see Obama as part of them. And this comes down to the other part of my argument, why the other part of it the other day was so emotional for me, and Obama is actually half African American. I don't know if you heard about this. And the way I guess that turns out now in our culture is half is full, so he's black, as they say. And one of the things that this is so good for, and actually the one who really brought it home for me, in a sentence, was Whoopi Goldberg, strangely enough, on The View, and I didn't actually see it, I read it. And she was talking about, and I think the phrase that she used was, she felt she could finally set her bags down. And this is someone who's been very successful in America and done very well, but never thought it was home. This is the whole African American thing, and and the history of it is, and it's a harsh, nasty history, and the whole, slavery thing. I'll do the McCain quotes, and I don't want to rag on McCain because he was very much his, the Patriot and Hero in his concession. The way that the African American thing and what Whoopi said, and it is different, when the history of it is we went and stole these people and put them in bondage, and it wasn't, that we took sometimes you took the weak and the strong, but sometimes the weak and the old and the frail, but really the ones that were the best in the market, the capitalistic market, and you got to realize why some people might be a little skeptical of that market, when at one point they were a product in it. But that's what I think this represents, is it's home now, I think, to a lot of people. Because you can't deny that it's possible to reach the highest point in the land. You can't. And it's like saying it is so simple, but it's so transcendent. And to be able to witness it, it really is amazing. And to be in Dallas, and to go out and see people so distraught about it, and so sad about it, was interesting. That's why I came back here. I was in New York in 2004, in New York City, after Kerry lost to Bush, and the world was like, what the fuck? And I was like, what the fuck? And I was so bad. And I was wondering, all right, well, what can I do, a little bit? And, I'm not, whatever. But one of the things that I came back to Dallas for a number of reasons, but one of them is because I wanted to argue with people. Because I love arguing, and I'm pretty good at it, and I usually have my shit together, and I usually, end up showing somebody something they haven't seen before, and so that was what was fun to yell at Bill tonight. I think we both got it out a little bit more. So, one is the home place for African Americans. It's a little bit personal, and we'll go there real quick. And I'm not going to go too far into it, and I will say this, leave my family alone. I've had, because of my internet activities before, actually, people post the addresses and phone numbers of family members that aren't me, because they were mad at what I had done. So don't do that, but I've got a big family, not me personally. I got a lot of brothers and sisters and nieces and nephews, and two of my nephews and my older brother, for reasons I'm not going to go into, they had adopted two children, and actually the only two boys in my family that have my last name are Tyler and Trevor. And they're both amazing. They're both very young right now. They're, just getting started in life, and they're both adopted by my brother, and they're both African American. And those are my nephews. And I'm not going to ever probably post a video of me playing with my family and my nieces and nephews, but I'll tell you what, it's fun. I'm not going to trade that for anything. It's personal. It is now. And now you kind of know why. Maybe that explains it a little bit more. I felt actually a lot better, because I broke down yesterday on the video, and then I was watching all the coverage last night, and a lot of people were breaking down and crying, so now I don't feel so bad. So it was that big, and that's why, for me, it was a little bit more personal.